Bitcoin is crashing right now. What do I think is going on? I covered this deeply over on X yesterday with more graphics. I'm just going to talk through it to you guys. So gold's breaking out of what is a multi-decade resistance at around $2,000. It's up like 2,200 at the minute. And what does that mean? That means that investors, especially those from generations above me, are worried about something. What are they worried about? Potentially other assets. So they move to gold to store their wealth, potentially cash. It basically shows that there's some uncertainty in the economy, which you all know anyway. But why is this? I talked about that it's probably because of the ending of the BTFP, the Bank Term Funding Program, which was introduced by the Fed and the Treasury when we saw the collapse of when we saw the collapse of the banks last year, Silicon Valley, Silvergate, and the likes. They created an instant liquidity program for banks who wanted to swap their treasuries at basically what they bought them for, to stop further bank runs on regional banks, which basically happened because people have instant access to their accounts now, so they can instantly withdraw. They can also instantly spread message. So when people are fearful, this is reflexive. Oh, I'm scared. I'm going to try and get some money out. I'm going to tell my friends to do the same. Boom, boom, boom. That domino effect happened really quickly, and then we start to see the bankruptcy of some banks, because banks only have to keep a fraction of their reserves on their balance sheet. Also, I know we've talked about this before, but one of the things they could keep on their balance sheet were treasuries, and the treasuries are now massively underwater because of Fed policy and basically a massive influx in deposits during COVID, and then them deposits being underwater if you take the treasuries mark to market, because the Fed then have increased their interest rates since C19 quite aggressively, the most aggressive increase in history actually, if we look at percentages. So mark to market, all the banks are underwater. Why does this matter for what I'm just talking about? Well, the BTFP, Bank Term Funding Program, that allowed banks to basically bail themselves out of this position, or allowed the Treasury to bail the banks out of this situation, ended yesterday or the day before, March the 31st. So now we do not have that liquidity for banks. So what does this mean? Well, as I said, it means some speculative investors who are worried about this sort of thing have moved their capital into gold. I think that's a fair shout. I think that the boomers look to gold when they need a store of value. I think it stays in gold maybe for a little bit until we see an answer from the Fed or the Treasury, when we probably start to see regional banks start to collapse again, because all the same problems still exist, actually accompanied with extra issues and pressures that they have from commercial real estate loans, which come due this year for refinancing this year, 1 to 3 years. So there's going to be problems in general, I think, with the banking system. So if nothing has changed, why would anything have changed in regards to depositors trying to rush to withdraw? They probably won't have, is my opinion. And because of that, there'll probably be banking failures. In this time, I think gold will probably rally as more people try to protect their wealth, until we get a clear answer from the Fed. And the clear answer from the Fed and the Treasury will probably come in the terms of extra liquidity and injections of cash. When that does happen, I presume the pivot from gold then moves over towards Bitcoin, because it's obviously a much smaller market cap item, very liquid, can be seen and bought around the world, because not only is this issue happening in the USA, the same sort of like liquidity / fiat issues are happening all over the world. So all the banks will probably come to some sort of agreement, whether it's behind closed doors or not, where they all start to stimulate lower rates, whatever, all together at the same time. This is super bullish for commodities and things like crypto. Crypto basically commodities in terms of like macro, but times by network effect, and obviously being digital narrative as well. So they have the massive upside exponential potential that we always talk about. Silver's another one that looks like it's going to break out for exactly the same reason as I've just talked about there. So what I basically think is going to happen is, as the boomers are probably going to move to gold, sit in gold for a little while, and then when they realize that the Fed's going to have to bail out the banks, pardon me, I think the Fed will bail Fed, or I say Fed, I mean Fed and Treasury, because they basically work as one now anyway. I think that comes when we've seen some pain in regional banks. People, and I mean people, I say retail or depositors, are angry that banks get bailed out whenever they make a mistake, and the Treasury are going to be like, oh yeah, look, we're on the side of the people before the election, let's let some banks collapse. But as soon as that starts to happen, people are going to be like, oh my God, my money's gone. Like, what's happening? We're going to see outflows from these regional banks into larger systemic or too big to fail banks like JP Morgan and the boys. And at this time, when this starts to happen, some people are going to lose money because they're going to realize they're not completely insured, and the bank bail-ins are going to happen, and people are going to beg for these banks to be bailed out. So when that happens, there'll probably be some sort of initiative introduced by the Fed and the Treasury. And in that time is when I think that Bitcoin and crypto specifically is going to have a massive, massive inflow of capital around the world, not just in the USA, as I was saying. And historically, if we look back at the charts, when we break above this period, if I'm right with all this, and obviously could be wrong, I'm just some idiot on the internet. If I'm right, then altcoins massively outperform in this area of the cycle. Those people who have been in Bitcoin for so long are probably going to rotate some profits into alts. They outperform in terms of percentage, not necessarily market cap, because I do think there'll be massive inflow of capital into Bitcoin in general. So yeah, basically stack your sats, stack your alts, hold commodities if you want to. That's where I think we're going to see a big rotation. How it happens, how it plays out, what happens in between, I don't know. But it looks like it's setting up for a monster rally in crypto specifically right about now. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think I'm wrong, let me know below. Or if you agree or want to add something, let me know. Yeah, basically, peace up, A-Town down. Thanks for listening.